Today on the podcast, we've got maybe the pound for pound baddest person we've had on the podcast, Macy Chiasson. She's a 12th ranked UFC Bantamweight, upcoming fight in September. So we talk a little bit about that. But of course, we talk a lot about athlete branding. She's starting a new podcast and all things MMA, branding, UFC, and Macy Chiasson. Thank you for listening, and we hope you enjoy. There we go. Macy, what is good? Appreciate you joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Beautiful Dallas, Texas. I don't know if it's beautiful. What's it
Yeah,
like?
It's got to be hot there right now, right?
I want to open the window, but it's really sunny right now. It's pretty hot, but I was in New Orleans a few weeks ago, kind of training a little bit, and it's like really humid over there. So
Yeah.
I'm actually glad that it's hot and not humid.
Yeah.
I was in New Orleans for our cousin got married, Tim and I's cousin. So I was there 10 days ago.
Yeah.
In New
Yeah,
Orleans.
yeah.
I was there. Should've hit
Yeah,
me up.
we should have met up.
You guys at the same
I don't
wedding?
know what the hell. I don't know what the hell. Yeah,
I can't really do much right now, so I mean, I
Yeah.
guess it's pointless, but
man, the wedding was supposed to be like 300 people, and then now it was 80
Yeah.
people because of all this
Yeah.
stuff. And we didn't even do anything but go from our Airbnb to the wedding venue.
Yeah.
It was-
I can't imagine like having to pay like tens of thousands of dollars for a wedding and then not being able to do it, you know?
Yeah.
And not
I
having
know.
everyone there. That's awful.
I know.
Yeah.
And they were even more so worried about just people and the virus and like older people and
Yeah.
So
you know,
y'all
I
didn't-
don't know.
y'all didn't get to
What's-
drink and celebrate,
Oh no, we drank and celebrated. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I don't
That's
even
right? Because that's the only thing that matters at a wedding is
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And so we and we'll get to some other stuff here, but I don't really drink that much. I drink 2 to 3 drinks a month. Like I don't drink a whole lot. But we flew our mother-in-law in to watch our son. So again, she wasn't part. It was my side, not the other side. So she watched the baby. We could turn up a little bit at night and then go back and get some sleep. But now that's our New Orleans story. Anyway, let's back to you. You got a fight coming up September 5th. Which we'll talk a little bit about the fight, but obviously what we do here is talk about branding, marketing, the outside of the actual sports stuff. But so you go September 5th. What's crazy to me, I found out about you a couple fights ago. You've been in the UFC you got 4 fights?
I'm 5-1 in the UFC. What
6
people don't really know is that the semifinals in the Tough House counts as a fight. A lot of people
Okay, interesting.
So like that's what my record's like, kind of like it's either 6-1 or 7-1, but it's your semifinal fight is 3 rounds in the house.
Yeah.
So that counts. It's no longer an exhibition, so it's sanctioned.
So
Why is that?
6 fights.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess because you can't fight. I guess according to the Nevada State Commission, you can't fight back to back. And so your first 1 or 2 fights in the house is only 2 rounds. And they'll go to 3 if it's like a split decision or some kind of tie, I believe. But because of the law, you can't fight back to back because usually when you fight, you're suspended, right? You're suspended for at least 14 days. So the semifinal is the last fight you have until months.
God,
So
interesting.
that's what I would think that, is going on with that situation.
So what was it like being on The Ultimate Fighter anyway? Like I'm sure nothing like any other experience. You've been around. You're living with a bunch of fighters. First that.
I mean, like I love people. I have a lot of friends and stuff like that. But like, man, I just cannot deal with random people and random people shit. Like being in that house, like it really it's a big mental push, which I think is good. It's beneficial for athletes and it's beneficial for any person in the world, right? To go through something like that. But a lot of people had a hard time mentally in there. And, especially like people with kids and you can't talk to your family, you can't watch TV, you can't really read books. You have to be engaged with these people. So I felt like some people were going crazy, so I just kind of tried to stay quiet and focused. And it was just really, I think the most annoying thing was trying to deal with other people's shit, because people were drinking and getting drunk. But I mean, it was a crazy experience. It's definitely something that I enjoyed going through, to look back on now. But would I want to do it again? Probably not.
Yeah. And they don't allow you to do like your own content throughout that, right? Because they kind of take everything, or
Yeah,
do they encourage?
Yeah, you don't have your phone for
Right.
7 weeks. So yeah, they give it back at the end, which was kind of cool, honestly, just being like disconnected from the world and just focusing on fighting alone, you know, which I thought was really, really beneficial and cool in a way.
Yeah, I definitely think that's cool. I think the UFC does a better job than most that would almost like encourage you. Here's your phone, create a vlog for it. You know, like that type of stuff to show what's happening. But I can see why they didn't too.
Yeah. Yeah. They don't have any coaching or access to the outside world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, that makes sense until now. I'm looking at the and I never thought about this till right this second, the WNBA and the NBA bubbles. Like now it would almost make sense to be like, wow, you've got this. I know they're doing it. It's a television show. The Ultimate Fighter is a television show. They're putting out specific, you know, they're filming it, editing it, cutting it. So maybe you fought on Tuesday night and they don't put it out till.
Well, we had 4 fights in one night, and each I think it was like each person had their own episode.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know what? For as much as we're into MMA, Tim and I've never watched a season or a full episode of The Ultimate Fighter.
The only reason I watched The Ultimate Fighter was because one of my teammates was on with Uriah Faber and Conor McGregor.
Okay.
And that's the only reason I watched it. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. But seems like something I would be into. But going back to being able to put out your own content, I think that would almost make sense. It would be different than an Ultimate Fighter, which they haven't done in years now, since your season, right?
Yeah, it's been 2 years. Yeah. I think they're going to have another one with Israel. They were supposed to with Israel Adesanya and
Paula.
What's his name? Yeah,
Paula.
Yeah, they're supposed to be doing that, and I think the setup's supposed to be different. So I'm not sure.
Interesting.
But yeah, it's been a few years.
Yeah. See, I would like the idea of letting you now create it. Of course, do it a little differently setup wise, but being able to let you have your phone and create your own content or tell your own stories from your angles.
Right.
And then you've got, the dozen people that are there to be able to disseminate to your crowds.
Yeah. Like maybe it's not like an everyday they give you your phone back, but maybe they give you a camera. And then they can have their team edit something like that gives you guys the behind the scenes content.
We did some behind the scenes stuff. Like it was called the confession room. You would go upstairs and talk about what was going on. But producers, they cut and edit shit that may not seem what it really is. They might split just a few words and put it with something else and make it completely turn the other way.
Yeah.
But I think not having the phones it allows people to engage more with each other, instead of sitting there on your phone.
Totally, yeah.
Yeah. Even if you did it just for a little bit of time. I like the angle of you being able to tell your own story. And then also as you all are coming up, because most of the people who show up are not names, are not people you've heard of. They're not, what's his face? The guy from Miami, the backyard brawling guy who was on The Ultimate Fighter.
He was on my season?
No. This is old school.
Okay. Ooh,
oh my God. I'm not the memory champ. Anyway, but most of you are unnamed or not big names coming up in the sport. So now you're teaching them how to tell stories. You're teaching them how to be able to do their own thing with whatever it is you're doing behind the scenes. And now you're putting out your own content and you're building, the more following each and every one of you fighters has, the better it is for the UFC.
Yeah.
It's true. Yeah. And they push for that. They push in a very small way, but I think a lot of athletes, especially in the UFC, are starting to find their own rhythm, and what people like, what people don't like, and some people kind of just fall into it. I feel like that's kind of the way it is. You have someone who's won a few fights in a row and they're like, oh my God, obsessed, Yeah. So I think it's I guess it just depends on what the spectators really see in someone. Because MMA fans can be horrible.
Yeah.
Oh, I think they're sports fans, especially on Twitter, are bad and brutal, period. But MMA is different because you guys are beating the shit out of each other. Yeah. It's not like you guys are shooting a hoop or playing softball or baseball. So there's just, it attracts a different type of person. And also it almost feels different to be able to talk about it. You got knocked the fuck out, blah, blah. And then,
yeah.
there's that. There's also some really good fans and people a part of it too. And I think that was loud, whoever's email that is. I think that the ESPN era has changed things a little bit, where you're getting some more casual fans. And I don't know if that's good or bad from that standpoint. It's good, obviously, because eyeballs and more attention to more people, more opportunities for storytelling. But definitely, I feel like it's been a little different storytelling, because Tim and I watched when we were teenagers, and then got back into it about 5 or 6 years ago when Holly beat Ronda. Yeah. Holly Holm beat Ronda Rousey. That was kind of our, like, when we really got back into it. And now we'll watch every single fight.
Everything. Yeah.
Yeah. That's on. But yeah, like that's what got us back into it, that story aspect of it. And Holly, she obviously blew up from there. But who are your favorite athletes on, and I'm just talking from a social standpoint, I'm not talking favorite fighters, who do you think does a great job on social media? Conor McGregor doesn't count, too big. Israel at this point is too big, with somebody else like that.
I mean, Conor, obviously, that would come first to mind for a lot of people, because he's really changed over from MMA to boxing and then into other stuff, So I think as far as like marketing goes, he's really done the best, in sports.
No doubt.
Yeah.
Richie just tweeted out about 10 minutes ago that I accept.
All he tweeted, and there's no context to this. There's nothing. He says, "I accept" with an exclamation. This is 28 minutes ago. It's already got 4,000 retweets, almost 20,000 likes, and 1,200 comments. Just "I accept."
Yeah.
But that's
probably 2 a.m. in Ireland right now.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I didn't even think about. Who knows?
I think Mike Tyson's starting to make a little bit of a turnaround.
Yeah.
Yeah. But as far as like my favorite person, I've always really loved Serena Williams, and I know she's got some stuff that just came out on Netflix. And the way she kind of like really dives into like her life and her husband, who was the owner of Reddit, and I've always really followed her, but I can't really pull anyone off the top of my head that's made such a huge impact like Conor has.
Yeah. That's not good. I should be able to this isn't about you.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, we just had this conversation earlier about basketball. There's more women's and men's basketball, and like content doesn't stand out. Same thing. We follow, me especially, I'm following WNBA, MMA super hard right now, are the two sports I'm watching big time over the last couple of weeks. And same thing with Tim. We're all watching these like basketball and MMA and not getting, like, we're trying to think of the best content creators, and it takes a second to get there.
Yeah, for sure.
We obviously want to change that.
I know of like some like women in MMA that are doing pretty well with like, like racy kind of like photos and stuff like that. Yeah. But as far as like really reaching out to people in like different ways, I can't really think of anyone.
Yeah. Well, that's Paige Van Zant's that person. Yeah. And if you don't know who Paige Van Zant is, she's probably a former UFC fighter. Just fought last contract, was on Dancing with the Stars. She's good looking, and she does do a bunch of like different stuff. And people hate on her. Maybe you hate on her. To me, it's like she's making money. And part of her thing is she makes a lot of money and works with brands and does stuff outside of the sport. She even came out like 2 months ago and was like, "I make more money on Instagram than I do fighting."
Yeah.
And and she makes 46 to fight, 46 to if she wins. So she's not making nothing.
Right. But her career really stemmed off, and I like Paige Van Zant, and some stuff I do agree with, some stuff I don't, and I think that goes for like anyone, right?
Yeah.
That gets out there like that. But her transfer over to Dancing with the Stars, it really did pull in a lot of viewers for UFC and for fighting, and I think she has done a really good job with that. So kudos to her. Like, I have no ill will towards her, but
sure.
But I guess if we were to think of someone,
Yeah, but then when you do that, you do open yourself up for stuff, and you just have to be ready for it. When people, especially when you lose, and it's like, go back to doing this, and get on Instagram and the dumb shit especially guys will say. It seems like it's less women doing that.
When you're making good money, like even if maybe if she's making really good money like outside of fighting, who fucking cares, right? Like, who cares?
Agreed.
Like, you're just like, I mean, a lot of guys that I've trained with back in New Orleans, like NFL and NBA, they don't give a shit what anyone says about them because they're making money, you know, and people are going to say what they want to say. And at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, exactly. But that is tough to do. And we're not in the public eye like you would be, or these other people are. So, I mean, I get some hate sometimes from people and it's like, next. Like, I don't.
It's so true though. Like, you know, the mindset of like an NBA, NFL guy where I'm going to make 10 million this year, 4 million, I could, whatever. Like I could see the mindset like that. Where MMA, it's different where like you have to build yourself. You have to build yourself even on social media. And, you know, a lot of those times you get the fight because you're talking shit with somebody else on social media.
Yeah.
So that's where you have to, like, if NFL guy talks shit to another NFL guy, the schedule's already set, you know, and they're already playing or not playing each other. So it doesn't matter. So yeah, I could see the mindset like that, and where MMA almost means more on what you're doing on social media.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. I mean, and that's something that I've really struggled with because when I was coming up and amateur, you know, and even when I went pro, it was just a hobby for me, you know, and I just really enjoyed doing it. I really loved being an athlete, you know, on the side while I was in college. And then when I was coming up as an amateur, there was a lot of girls that were always posting stuff that people just really loved, but they like were horrible at MMA. Like these are people that I knocked out, or, you know, or they didn't have like a great record, you know, which doesn't take anything away from them as a person, you know, but I just really like despised it because I was like, why do you have to flaunt something? You know, why can't you just go and perform in the cage, right? That was kind of like the way that I looked at it. But you know, since that was like, what, 6 or 7 years ago. And now it's like social media is such a big part of, you know, athletes' lives. You know, it's what's going to make or kind of break you down the line, you know, longevity wise.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's been really hard to transition from that mindset to you know?
Yeah. It is the only sport where, though, you're right. You can change your career path based on what you speak and what you say on social media. And there's no other sport like that where you're like Tim said, the schedule's set. Doesn't matter if LeBron wants to talk a bunch of shit to Paul George. They're not like, all right, Lakers, Clippers finals. Let's do this. Yeah. You know, it would be great. So cool. But only in MMA does this happen, or boxing, I guess, but combat sports, period.
Well, it is a one person against another person, so
yeah,
that's what we like, though. I mean, it's even like, you know, it could in you know, a matter of a day or two. I remember the James Krause earlier this year. I'll step and fight 2 weight classes above what he would normally, and just for the fact of him saying I'll fight anyone anytime and actually doing it, I mean, he got so much like publicity over that, and now I mean, he's riding that wave of like what's on his profile? It's like the any weight,
UFC any weight.
Yeah. So, I mean, doing stuff like that, which happens just really fast.
And done a bunch of brand partnerships since.
Yeah. That's, I mean, riding that wave of it. Yeah. So,
you know, I really wanted to do stuff like that, but it's like, just like I said, like the mindset of like coming up and then being a part of like a very like small group of people that, you know, you fight because, you know, it's discipline and respect. And so I always had a hard time like talking shit about someone, you know. I just to get a fight, or, you know, and I can see like people are starting to ride that wave, and people love it. I mean, you know, like spectators love it. But it's so hard for me to like just shut that mindset out and do it.
But I think there's a way to do that and not to be authentic. I mean, either way, be authentic to you. Yeah. There's people in the sport that are clearly, they start stuff just to start stuff, and that can also be funny and good too. Like,
sure.
like Colby Covington, you know, whatever he does, his whole gimmick is just to get people to hate him.
Right. Oh, for sure.
And it works.
They love you or they hate you. People are gonna watch you because they hate you. They want to see you lose, or they're gonna watch you because they love you.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And he's done a great job of almost being cut from the UFC apparently to getting a title shot in I don't know, a couple fights. Yeah. You know, and so there's that, but there's also ways to just be like, nah, I could beat her. Like, yeah, I mean, and not say, you know, Sijara Eubanks is who you're fighting next, not be like, I hate her because this and that, or she's this or that. And just be like, nah, like to me, I'm a much better fighter because of X, Y, and Z. And then, you know, she comes back and you come back. But
yeah,
you know,
I mean, I think someone who, like, speaking of like riding a wave, is like Masvidal. If he wasn't on social media, or he wasn't on social media,
his manager,
yeah, in the last 12 months, he doesn't get as popular as he is. You know what I mean? Like, he obviously had some great fights and great knockouts, but you can't interact with the fans. You can't have that wave unless you're on social media, like he was.
Right.
Yeah. Are you doing this podcast? You're talking about coming out with a podcast. We had talked the other day. You said you already did an intro.
Yeah, which is like, the intro is the hardest one because, okay, so we just couldn't figure out what we wanted to name it. And
who's we?
So it's me and my partner, Hannah.
Okay.
And she's a composer and a musician. She's been playing the flute for over 20 years. She teaches at the University of Texas, Arlington. And she's got her own like composing thing going on. So she's really into the music world, into fitness too. And so we're like, let's do a podcast. You're going to play the flute for an intro. And she won't do it, but
What?
But no, we just talk about our interests, and like you said, like just trying to get like our word out there and our experiences and just trying to show the world like who we are in a different way, you know, rather than trying to like just post picture after picture on Instagram or this, you know, trying to talk about certain issues or fitness or fights or music. So
yeah. Great. I love it.
Yeah, I dig it. And it seems like it's two completely opposite industries.
Yeah.
They're bound together by you guys, and then you guys can kind of intertwine with interviews and conversations and whatnot.
Well, we started like during the quarantine because we were so bored. We had no idea. Besides like working out all day long outside and just like running into random people and having these weird experiences, we're like, oh my God, we're going to start a podcast because the weirdest shit happens to us. And so we kind of started like during the quarantine, and we like got sidetracked and did kind of an intro and then sidetracked again. And then I had one of my friends as like our first guest on Sunday on our podcast to kind of talk about like functional patterns and you know, the way it helps like realign the body. And we worked with a guy out in Austin. I don't know if you guys are familiar with functional patterns.
Yeah.
But it's biomechanics of the body. So it's basically, there's a guy that trains in Austin that we had a session with that has helped this girl with cerebral palsy and has like realigned her body. It's insane. Wow. So we kind of talked about that. It's like some interesting stuff, you know, whatever pops up on our realm, whether it's fitness for me or music for her.
Well, and you know, whatever it is, and I've said this in your DMs too, like whatever it is, it's a way for you to build depth with your community, the people that are watching. There's going to be a connection. You know, I would have no idea that your partner plays the flute and what she does. I don't follow her, I follow you. So like, that's kind of just a cool thing to know and vibe with. Then it's, hey, I got a fight announcement. Here's what I'm thinking about. Bam. Then it's in training. Here's what's going on. Bam. Then it's functional patterns guy. Bam. And then it's weird interactions and funny. Now we're like starting to get a vibe for you. When I followed you for, I don't know, a year-ish now or something, a long time. But when I really felt like I got to know you through listening to another podcast you were on, because it was just like cool. And you just were just chilling and talking. It wasn't like it was anything crazy or special. I didn't come away like, oh, that she's hilarious because she told these 5 jokes. I just was like, she seems like a cool person to hang out with. And it was just from you speaking like this to somebody else.
Yeah, I feel like that's an easier way for me, just because of the person I am, to like express myself to people rather than like photos and like doing boomerangs, you know. And I'll do that. I mean, I post a lot of training stuff, you know, but it's hard to portray that in like small interviews, especially fight interviews, when it's only focused on a fight and not you, you know.
Fight interviews can be so bad.
And it's the same. Hard. Really hard to be a good interviewer.
Yeah, probably. But and the tough part is, you know, when you do those media sessions with the UFC and you're there and there's like 10 people there and from the media perspective, you're trying to, if you're not the first or second person, you're trying to find a different question to ask or a different angle to go. But you know what I liked? I talked about this recently too, is the WNBA did a thing where they had 12 people come in, or not 12 people, 12 media outlets. They were able to take control of the media narrative for a day in the bubble. So like, it was a Complex, Teen Vogue, ESPNW. So they got to come in and tell different stories their way. So different angles, different places. But I'd love to see a fighter do something like that. Like, hey, I'm putting here. I got to fight September 5th, like you do. Anyone who wants to come interview me or have a conversation with me or take over, let me do a takeover with social that day. Reach out, let's do it. And not only are you now getting in front of their ecosystem, but you're having a different conversation with like a Complex than you would a Teen Vogue or a ESPNW. And now you're having all these different content pieces that you can work with. And now you become your own media entity from that standpoint.
Yeah. You mean like they're taking over my content, or I'm like
no. They like for what they did is they're able to tell, like Complex is able to take over, basically like telling the narrative of the day. So they have, whatever it is. So like it could be interview sessions, it could be lives, it could be this couldn't happen now, but like in the future it could be, all right, you can come for training this day with me and video, and we'll do an interview and whatever you want to do. But just like, hey, come tell the story of my fight camp your way is kind of the message of it.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I've had like other people, like sponsors and stuff, do similar stuff like that.
Sure.
But it's always been like kind of like a favor thing, So I just never really knew how to kind of put that together for myself. I don't know. I guess I'm just not really good at the whole social media thing.
We'll get better.
Doing a podcast.
One thing we did, I don't know, when was that? About a year and a half ago, the Michael Johnson.
Oh, yeah. About 2+ years ago.
So, yeah, maybe it was by now.
So you got
Michael
it?
Johnson was going to, I don't even know where they were, somewhere in Florida, let's say. He wasn't even fighting, but he was going to the fight. I think he might have been or somebody.
I'll tell you. So here's, I got it because you're messing it up. So Michael Johnson just came off a big win. And the next week they were in Madison Square Garden. It was DC versus Derek Lewis. And I sent over like a handful of ideas Tim and I came up with, like, here, do this X, Y, and Z. One of them was do a takeover of the fight of the weigh-ins on Friday night. So all he did was a live on the weigh-in. So he was able to
the UFC channel, that is.
Right. Take over the UFC's Instagram, which they had never done anything weigh-in wise at that point. Again, this is like 2-ish years ago now. And he's on there, and there's Stephen Wonderboy Thompson and different athletes behind the scenes of the weigh-ins. Not anyone who's actually fighting on the card, but people kind of just there. You know how it is behind the scenes. Right. And it was really cool and different. He's asking them questions and had these different, like a different vibe than you even see on the account. And then also told them, hey, do a giveaway on your page. So he was able to say, hey, anyone who follows me, check out the giveaway I got going on. It was like a signed pair of gloves or something like that. Okay. In that weekend, really like 30 hours, he got 20,000 followers.
Damn.
And it was just
it was not like UFC had never even done this either. So when we told them to do that, they were like, shit, yeah, you're going to give us like really cool content? Yeah, why not? So but like stuff like that like you wouldn't even think that, these places would be open to. They're definitely open to it, especially when you bring a unique angle to it.
Yeah, they need content.
Now he's got 20,000 followers overnight.
Different perspectives, I guess,
Yeah.
Something out of the norm, yeah.
Yeah, and even if us three did that, we would tell totally different stories, if we were behind the scenes. So, like, that was a really cool way for him to be able to talk, connect, put his face in front of people. A lot of people have probably just seen him as a fighter, never seen him as, like, this funny dude who's kind of silly and, had good jokes and that kind of thing. So,
yeah,
I mean,
like just kind of getting your personality out there, from a different angle.
Yeah. I mean, the UFC is 50 million followers across platforms. There's tons of eyeballs on their social media. So like pitching ideas and pitching content, stuff like that, I think can work. Now, sometimes they'll just say no, but there's different opportunities like that, more than you probably would think at this point.
So you're not saying I have to like get my face tattooed and like dye my hair and shit?
I don't think that's a bad idea either. What are you thinking?
I don't think my mom would be down with that.
Yeah.
You couldn't go above the neck.
I think you don't have to do anything you don't want to do, and you can just be authentic to you and be really just more of you. We need more of you. I think. I personally.
Be a little bit louder.
Well, I don't know if you need to raise the actual level, just more. Like, let us peel back a layer of the onion. Not all the layers, but just like a layer.
Yeah, I agree. I don't do enough of it. So.
Yeah, and sometimes it's a bitch to do. I mean, we get that. But finding ways to minimize the hassle or the reasons to not do it, to the podcast, whatever you've started it twice and then not done it. So like, how can you eliminate those reasons? Was it, your girl didn't love the intro or, or whatever the thing is.
We have it. It's ready to go. We just haven't like put it out there yet.
Yeah, put it out.
Well, do you think it's like good to like make a video, like video it, or just do the podcast, or?
I would do the video. How did you guys set it up? With the functional patterns person, were they actually physically with you?
Yeah, they were next to me. He was sitting next to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I mean, I always like the video aspect of it because then I can see your face, and then when you post it on social, I'm looking at you do it. Yeah. But there's like, I never would have done Zoom before. I hated Zoom. Tim always wanted to do Zoom podcast.
Do Zoom.
I'm like, I want to get a vibe for the person. Let's sit on this couch and talk.
That's cool. But it's hard to do that right now. So.
But you can't do it. So we've started the Zoom, and now I love the Zooms. But this is so easy to do with the Zoom now. It's all like right now. I hit a record button. I hit live stream, and we're up. We're on Twitter live right now. And then as soon as I'm done and I end the meeting, it'll record to my computer. Cut it, edit it. We're up in 2 seconds. But yeah, I think if you can do more video, I would definitely do more video.
Yeah. I mean, and it's crazy because like I like sit down and I'm thinking like, okay, podcast, like there's like so many people that I know, and I'm not just saying that, but there's a lot of people, NFL, like Saints, Cowboys that I've trained with, Greg Monroe, and then I have a lot of guys that I've trained with that have trained a lot of like really high level athletes, and getting their perspective on stuff. So there's a lot of people that I know that I could get on there, and talk about times that we've had together and stuff. And I've been thinking about it for a while, but then I was like, okay, like everybody in the world has a podcast, but like you said, this is the perfect time to have one. Just because everyone has one doesn't mean that yours isn't going to be accounted for.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm really excited to start doing it.
Yeah, and even from that, so you have Greg Monroe and person X, Y, and Z. Make sure you create something they'll share. A video is something that's flattering of them, or something they say, or a funny story, or whatever it is. Create a content piece so they have it, they share to their audience, and now you've gained an extra handful of, or thousands or whatever followers and viewers of your podcast. That's like when we do this, this will be 5 to 10 pieces of content, not just a podcast that's going to be 45 minutes long on Twitter or on YouTube, Twitter, and podcast platforms. But now we'll create these content pieces. Of course, we want you to share, but for us, it's us sharing a message of like, here's what athletes should be doing. Here's this person we talked to. Here's a great idea that someone who's never heard of you that plays football is now like, oh shit, I should do what she did because she had this mindset on it. Like those types of things. So creating shareable content for them, I think would be super beneficial too.
Yeah, for sure. No, I've always really liked the idea. I just was like, okay, maybe I'm just not that person that has the ability to do it,
Yeah, I would also be strategic on your end too, where like, I don't know where, like what angle you want to take it, but maybe it's, you're having on some of the sponsors or the owners of some of the sponsors where you're interviewing them and also getting the word out. So maybe that's part of your assets where, the owner of the company will come on your podcast and they get X amount of views, and then you're adding that onto your value in your sponsorship package or whatever that might be. Or maybe a potential brand will see you during the podcast that never knew of you, and they'll just get discovered through the podcast. So I'd be strategic even the ways of bringing people on with that angle on.
And just don't make it a kiss ass piece of like, so what do you do? What's your brand? How can you, just like a general conversation, I think would be great.
Conversation. Yeah. And honestly, like I said, like it takes a certain person to be a good interviewer because you're not going to sit here and just ask like questions, right?
Yeah.
Open-ended questions, whatever. You have to actually talk to that person. You have to engage with them, you know, and sometimes it's hard. I mean, like if you're not used to doing it, right? Like how do you go like flow like organically from one thing to the next without like this awkward pause? But
that's where the flute comes in.
Yeah, that's exactly. And I was telling Hannah, I was like, you're gonna play the flute, just a small little trill, just a little
yeah.
All right, people are gonna love it. You're gonna have so many musical followers.
Yeah, right.
But I think just having those two different like sides, those two different like views, I think it could be a fun podcast, you know. And like I said, like I have CBD sponsors, you know. I know people with this here, there, you know. I've trained with these people, so I think it could be cool, you know. I just needed a little push because I was like, okay, can I do it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, good. I'm glad you're doing it. And if you need to, like those other people that you work with, just get a Zoom account, $20 a month. And you can start, if instead of only doing in-person ones, which I still think are better when possible.
It's fun.
I know it is fun. It is fun.
You can like drink or, you know, smoke or whatever. And
you know,
and then completely mess up the podcast because you forgot what you're going to say or ask. But
who cares?
Yeah, but that's the cool part of it. You know, that's the fun part.
I think Rogan forgets where they're at half the time. They're just like we're having a conversation. They just go another direction.
Put some sunglasses on and a spacesuit and
whatever.
Yeah, right. I popped on Rogan had Post Malone on yesterday.
Oh,
and
that's so cool.
Yeah, so I watched the first 5 minutes of it. I'll probably listen to more because I like Post Malone too. But the first 5 minutes, Post Malone says, I haven't slept yet. It's like 2 p.m. Haven't slept yet. They're both on mushrooms, drinking Bud Light and smoking cigarettes. Or at least Post Malone smoking cigarettes and I don't know, Rogan's probably smoking weed.
Probably smoking a joint.
Yeah. But that's in the first 5 minutes. So it's like they take it, and that's the most popular podcast in the entire world.
People are engaged, like, holy shit, this is awesome.
Yeah. Well, cool, Macy. We appreciate it. Appreciate you coming on. We're rooting for you September 5th. Even if you like, it's a weird thing where I think Tim's this way too. Having a conversation, I immediately like root for somebody. Like, we'll be yelling here.
Super biased. Like, oh, we have her on the podcast. Biased.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
Man, I appreciate you guys so much, and like, thank you for the push. Like, you know, I really, this is something I wanted to do for a while, and I just didn't. I was like, okay, well, like, am I, like, do I have the right views? Or you don't have to be one way, you know, it's all about trying to express yourself and getting your word out. And, you know, people are going to take it or leave it, you know, and I think it's just one of those things where you just have to be vulnerable. So
do you, just do you. And if we can help in any way, let us know.
For sure. Thank you so much.
Deal. Appreciate you.